Hi everyone, I'm here today to talk about some of the myths that have been taught to us with the traditional golf swing. And then I'm going to follow that up by showing you a product that's going to change the way that you learn the golf swing and actually give you the ability to be an absolute incredible golfer. First of all, what I'd like you to do is understand a couple things. The first thing I want you to understand is the way they teach the traditional golf swing. They say bump to the right, to where you've got weight on your right heel. There's a little bit of weight on the ball joint of the left foot. Then they want you to pivot around that, go to the top, and get this tiny little recentering move. Then in the transition, they want you to bump to the left very minutely. Then they want me to turn around it and then come through, okay? Well, here's a very fascinating thing, and I'd like you to stand up with me right now. Put your arms out. This is my right hand. This is my left hand. So I want to turn to the right, which is going to be the backswing. The second I turn to the right, in real life, my body will shift my weight to my left, which allows my pelvis to open up, and then I can walk and I can push off that back leg to go in the intended direction if I'm moving right. So again, if you haven't stood up, I ask you to stand up with me right now. We're going to go to the left. So I need to turn to the left. My body will put weight here on my right side, open up my pelvis to go to the left. Then I can plant off of that and get pressure, ground force off of that right foot to be able to propel me into the intended direction. If I'm doing the same thing, the second I move towards you, my weight goes backwards. The second I move away from you, my weight goes forward to allow me to move back. Those are absolutes. Those are the way my brain interprets how to get my body to move in this 3D environment that we live in. And it is the exact same for you, how your brain has intended that to go. You are not, and this is very difficult for me, you're not going to move to the right and try to turn to the right, because I'm never going to turn to the right. It's going to set me off over here. And if I say, okay, I'm going to move to the left and then try to turn to the left, the only way that's going to get me to go is over here. It's not going to allow me to go in my intended direction. So once we understand that the game of golf is really a game of opposites. Now, a lot of people don't understand that. We've all heard, or most of us that read Ben Hogan's books, we've heard, or even in some of his comments, we've heard him say, if you could just do the opposite of everything you're thinking, you're going to have a really good golf swing. What he really meant was that your body has to move in the opposite direction before it can go into the intended direction. So by understanding that, you truly have to understand it really is a game of opposites. A game of opposite of how do I make the backswing work. A game of opposite to how do I get the downswing to work. But now that we understand the body's going to move in all these opposite directions before we can go in our intended directions, the traditional golf swing bump to the right makes absolutely no sense anymore. Then pivot around it, my body is seeking balance to recenter. They say bump to the right, recenter. When I recenter, my body's out of balance because it doesn't understand this bump to the right. Normally, the body would shift to the left before it went to the right. So now all of a sudden they're here, then it's rebalance, then it's get out of balance, then it's try to turn out of this unbalanced position. The brain doesn't understand it. It understands, oh, if I want to turn to the right, for a right-handed player would be the backswing, my weight has to go left. It has to, because the brain can go, oh, I understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Now I can just go to the top of the backswing. So the opposite would be, I'm going to start to the right, which loads this leg, which gets us in that squatted position. Now I can have my pelvis open up, and then I can come through and hit the shot. So now that we've established those are the core things of how our brains perceive how to get us to move within this 3D environment that we live in, the golf swing is going to start make a lot of sense. For the first time, it's going to make a lot of sense to a lot of you that are out there. So what I want to do is we're going to talk about a three-phase system. What I mean by that is posture. Then we're going to show you a product that's going to show you how to move your body correctly based on everything I just showed you. Then we're going to add to that product, and we're going to show you the path that the hands and the club must follow. And when you put that three-phase system together, posture, understanding the path of the body, and understanding the path of the club, you now have what we call the ultimate system of body awareness and the ultimate system of club head and club awareness to be able to make everything come together in such a simple way that it's not going to confuse you. We all hear these different things about do this, do, external rotation, internal rotation, flexion, early extension, ulnar deviation, whatever, okay? All that stuff is, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody right now, when people start using words like that, they're basically trying to let you know that they think they know a lot more about the golf swing than you do. And that's really not a good thing, because even though they're teaching us or saying all these things have to happen, like you've got to go into external rotation, hold that external rotation, go into internal rotation, and hit a shot. There is nobody out there in the world that can think about, is this gone external and is it going to come internal at the right time in geometric space within 1.2 to 2.2 seconds of motion? That's going to put way too many thoughts in your head. And I just said external and internal rotation. I didn't talk about all these other things and these words that they've come up with. Or they're going to say the only way to measure something is to understand the force plates in the feet, so that when we can see these weight transfers back between the right foot and the left foot, that's truly the only way to measure how the golf swing is going to work. But if you start paying attention to the stats on all of the professional tours, women and men, even your mini tours, even people that just go play golf, that go out for the weekend and come back, there are a lot of injuries in golf, a lot. And the hard part to believe about that is golf is a non-contact sport. But a lot of people get hurt. We can say at the beginning, or I think around July, that Brooks Koepka was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to play anymore this year because of an injury. So how Brooks Koepka swings the club, it's a little bump to the right, turns, gets his weight back to the left, post up, swings the club. Of course that's going to hurt. That is concussive. The modern golf swing, boom. They move to the right. All bets are off from here. So they recenter, move to the left, come through. It's an extremely concussive behavior on the body because it doesn't adhere to what we just learned. If I want to turn right, my brain sees it as I must move left. If I want to turn left, my brain understands it. The only way I'm going to do that without thinking about it, it just happens. I went to the right so that I could turn left. Like I said, we're going to go on a fantastic journey, and we're going to understand how to have the simplest golf swing, how to see the patterns, how to see the path. Because once we can see the pattern, everything just accelerates. And I mean accelerates because human beings are pattern recognition machines. That's how we've gone through our early existence to get to this point today. But if you think about golf instruction, the way it's taught, we know in math, 1 + 1 = 2. But the way golf instruction is being taught online today, 1 + 1 could equal 100. And the reason for that is people use the English language to communicate with each other. So if I'm an instructor online today, somebody in my past taught me whatever I needed to learn about the traditional golf swing and how golf swing should be taught. And then I say, okay, I'm going to take that. And now this is what they told me. How can I make it better? So the first time I start trying to make it better is now become my opinion, which can get changed and argued by everybody in the world because the English language is not, or any language for that matter, is not as concrete as math. 1 + 1 will always equal 2. The interpretation of language can allow me to add my own personal thoughts, my own opinions, so it changes. And it's that changing of all these instructors that are trying to go through this information. They're adding their own opinions or their own thoughts to it. It's not based on math. Now, a lot of people are going to go, uh-oh, math. This is going to get kind of crazy and it's going to be complex because a lot of people in the world don't like dealing with math. But we do it every day with our checkbooks, our credit cards, debits and credits. It's just, it's what we've got to understand. And when we can understand the math and the geometry that surrounds the body, which I'm fixing to show you, your golf game in a very short period of time, when you use our product, is going to allow you to simplify all of the noise that's out there, remove that noise, become calm, and start understanding there is a true pattern in geometric space that if I follow it, the results are going to be the ball goes straight, the ball goes further, there's no pain or literally zero pain in my back, no pain in my joints, my muscles, my bones, because when my body starts understanding the way that it's supposed to move in harmony with the way that I move in reality, the game is a really wonderful experience. So hang on a second. We'll be right back to talk about posture and how the body's got to move. Okay, what we're going to learn now is how to get set up into proper posture and the absolute correct movements that the body needs to make based on the geometry of the product. As you can see right now, it looks like a hexagon because it is. So you've got R1 down here on the bottom, R2 up top, R3. Then on the left side, you've got L1, L2, and L3. This product, based on the support poles on the outside, will allow you to move this product from 30 to 60 degrees at 5-degree increments. But like I said, we're going to talk about posture first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand in here and I'm going to rotate the product towards you so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, a lot of people, they don't really understand posture at a mathematical level. They're like, oh, when you get set up in posture, you can get set up in this 30 degrees or 40 degrees and bend forward. Well, when I bend forward, if somebody came up to me and pulled me, my body would be out of balance. But what's the other part about leaning forward? If I lean forward, I'm putting pressure on the ball joints of my feet. But in posture, because we're not doing anything, if I stand up in life like this, I've got weight on my left right now, and that weight is on the back of my heel because I'm not doing it. I'm just standing here, I'm relaxed, I'm talking to you, but the weight is truly on the back of my heel. So now, when I get set up, what do we have to do? This pole support piece down here is set at a 60-degree relationship to the ground. Now, it's supporting the geometry in midair, but there's a reason this is set at 60 degrees. The simplicity of this is, okay, when I stand up, I just need to bend my knees, push my pelvis back, and you're going to see that my spine is now in a relationship of 60 degrees to the ground. So now I've got a matchup, okay? I'm in balance. My weight is on my heels because I haven't done anything. I'm just standing here. I'm ready to do something, but I don't have, see how it doesn't match up? It just doesn't match up. I've collapsed. I've got top heavy is what we call it because a lot of people try to lean down and reach for the ball, but it doesn't match up to the 60-degree angle that my spine has to match up into. So I feel very like some really good positive things are going to happen. There is a reason. There is a specific reason we have to have this 60-degree relationship with the ground with our spine. But this is the best position to get set up for your posture because it's real simple to do. I just look down, I go, okay, I'm looking at this support bar on the side and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm at 60 degrees every single time. And the more reps you get in by using the Polygongolf Swing Trainer to set up your posture, the more reps you do now because I can feel everything that I'm doing. Oh, I just push the pelvis back, I'm right there. That feel and the reps that you're gonna get are gonna make it to where you have really good posture in a very short period of time, okay? So now let's move into how the Polygongolf Swing Trainer actually works for the correct movements of what has to happen in the body. I'm gonna put that down for a second. We've already established earlier that the body must move left before it moves right and to go into the backswing for a right-handed player. I'm not left-handed, but if I was, I'd just move to the right before I went to the left. So this product, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, is absolutely for everyone because it is a symmetrical training workstation that's going to teach us how to move the body correctly. So when I get set up, we've already established R1, R2, and R3, L1, L2, and L3. So when I get set up with my body, instead of doing all this bump stuff that they talked about, which goes against every fiber in the brain, we've got to learn how to move the body correctly. So when I'm set up in here, I'm at a 60-degree angle. This product right now is set at a 30-degree relationship to the ground, okay? This also, if we look at this for a second, most people are going to perceive a 90-degree angle like this. They're going to perceive a 45-degree angle like that. That makes sense. It's a very flat, straight approach picture. So what we've done is we've taken this 90-degree angle and we have rotated it. Because now if these points connect, you can see that it's truly a 90-degree angle in three-dimensional space. The converging points between R1 and going out of R1 into R2, these white joint pieces are set at 45 degrees, okay? That's gonna come in extremely important when we learn how to move the club correctly, but it's also gonna be helpful right now for how we move the body. So let me show you this. When I get set up, I'm in good posture. I have a 60-degree relationship to the ground. The plane and the degrees that my body is going to be moving on is going to be 30 degrees with the body in relationship to the ground. So if I took this dowel rod and I went like this and I turn, now my body is going to be on this 30-degree angle too, okay? This is not a product to where you have to drag something on it in order to make it work. It is truly showing us the angle changes and how the body has to move in order to perform the best motion possible that's going to keep me in balance. So the important part is with the 60-degree angle of the spine in relationship to the ground, with the 30-degree angle that the product is set up on, the product shows us these angular changes that have to take place at a specific point in time. So now I've got 60 with the spine, 30 with the angle that the product is set up on. That gives me 90 degrees. We just showed you this is a 90-degree angle. Back here, this is truly a 90-degree angle. So all of a sudden, we're going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to have this 90-degree relationship with 45-degree angle changes. I'm going to have a relationship of 60 degrees with the spine, 30 with the angle that it's set up on equals 90. So now the body can support these 90-degree angle changes and 45-degree angle changes to make a really good golf swing, okay? So how does it work? Real simple. When we get set up, the first move we're going to make is the left part of my bottom here is going to move in the direction of L3. Then as I continue to go up in the backswing with my body, this is now going to corner into the joint from L3 to L2, which now allows the leg to move in the direction of L2. As I continue moving up, the knee is going to move slightly in the direction of L1. And as you can see at the top of the backswing, my right hip is higher than my left because all I've done with the left side of my body is just gone there with my lower body. And when I do that correctly, watch how my upper body follows. Boom. A lot of people are going to say, oh, you got to bring the left shoulder and get it down and all this crazy stuff. Okay? But the truth is, if I just move my pelvis, the backside of my left side, down L3, kind of corner in from L3 to L2, the leg responds. There's pressure because the knee went in. I'm at the top of the backswing. and I've got a really massive turn. But the cool part is I could sit here all day long. I'm in balance. You could come up to me and push me. You're not going to knock me over because this is a movement that my brain understands. So now that I'm at the top of the backswing, making the downswing just needs to happen in the opposite direction. I want to go left, so my body's got to move right first. So what happens? At this point, the right buttocks, the back part of my rear here on the right side, is going to move down R3. And when I do that, you can see how I'm getting into this loaded squatted position that they talk about. But the second I do that, my pelvis is also moving back. So because a lot of people interpret the golf swing, they want to go out to the ball, hence they hit it 40 yards to the right, or they flip their hands real fast and they hit it 40 yards to the left. Because the pelvis can't go towards the ball, it has to move away from the ball in the downswing. It also has to move away from the ball in the backswing, which we can see how easily that's done. So now all of a sudden, the right part of my rear is going to go down R3. Then as I keep moving down, it's going to corner into and out of R3 to R2. And when I do that, it's pressurizing the leg. My leg is responding right here. I can feel the muscles. So then all of a sudden, I'm going to come down with the right knee going in the direction of R1. And then it's going to just turn and come all the way up to the top. It's really that simple. But if you don't have the geometry, it's very difficult to do. Because you can stand up and say, well, Chris said move this part, move this part, move this part, and that's going to be good. And then I got to move this part, and that part. But without a guide that is measurable in three-dimensional space, you cannot understand it. But once you're inside of it, you're like, wow, this is set up through math. This is extremely measurable. The body's set at 60. The relationship of the plane we're working on is 30. The angle changes are 45 and 90 degrees, and I've moved the correct side of my body in the backswing. Now I'm going to move the correct part of my body in the follow-through, and it's just going to work. But the cool part is it's going to work in such simplicity that all you have to do is get the reps. Notice I do not have a club in my hand. The reason I don't have a club in my hand, because this shape of the hexagon, which we call the 30-degree cube, is going to allow me to get the reps that I need to get to be able to make these moves at will. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back over to talk about the correct path of the 60, which is going to show us what our hands and the club has to do. Okay, we're back now, and we are looking at the octagon, which we've got the baseline R1, R2, and R3, and then the top line. Then we've got L3, L2, and L1. Remember, this product will move from 30 to 60 degrees at 5-degree increments. But right now, we're going to learn how the path of the club has to work so that we can get this set up the way that we need it to. So let me grab a club real quickly. Sorry about that. So we'll get set up in here. Now, we know that this one too is a 90-degree angle because here's our point. And if I came off of there, it's going to match up, which creates the 90s. We also know that at the white joints, they are 45-degree angle changes in three-dimensional space. So when we get set up, we're like the path of the club because we know our posture is good. We know how to move the body to get to the top. So now what we're going to do, and I'll move this back a little bit. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, we got to move this club correctly. So I'm going to move the body correctly. And when I do that, you can see how I haven't swung my arms. I haven't done anything. I've moved my body correctly, and I've just let my hands follow. So when I do that, the club shaft is going to be right on top of the converging point from baseline to R1. Okay, so now as I move from here, and I'm like, okay, there's an angle change that I've got to make this angle change with my hands, and it's going to put the club right here. Because all I'm truly doing is just following the pattern that surrounds my body in three-dimensional space. So a lot of people talk about, well, P2. Well, when I'm doing this move, as I'm cornering out of the baseline into R1 for a brief second, as my hands are going up here, you're going to see I'm in a good P2 golf position. But this position is so irrelevant, it's not even funny. So all we've got to do is just say, okay, I'm going to follow the pattern. There we go. So now my hands have to move from R1 to R2. So they're going to corner on this 45-degree angle. And when I do that, you can see how the elbow comes back into the body. Now, this is a fascinating point because what other athletes have we seen that pull their elbows back into the body? A figure skater. So when she goes into her pirouette thing or whatever they call it, she pulls her arms in and then she starts rotating for a female figure skater. And it looks like she's turning at like 500 miles an hour because she's bringing everything back into her body, using her body to generate the force. So now that is the reason people talk about a flying elbow and all these different things. Well, when you're inside of the geometry correctly and you're simply just following this path, the elbow will come back into the body. Then as I move and I go to the top, let me get this set up. So there's the first move. There's the second. Now we've cornered into R2. Now all we have to do from here is corner out of R2 into R3. And you can see I'm like in this perfect position, balanced position, strong. The club's at the top. It's matched up to R3. Everything is really, really good. So now in the downswing, all I've got to do is make that move that I talked about with the right part of my rear going down R3. And when I do that, look how the club goes down R3 too. This move right here is the move most amateurs miss. So they like get to the top and they're like, oh, I want to start attacking R1 first. And when they start attacking R1 first, they come over to the top. Because they've used their upper body to aggressively try to go at it, the hips will stall, and then they hit the ball all over the map. What the geometry is showing us to do is to say, oh, I'm here. I'm going to move the right side of the body correctly, and this club will follow down R3. Then as I continue moving, you can see where it gets to R2. Then I'm going to follow that, and then at this angle change down here, I'm going to start coming into the golf ball. And as you can see, when I'm making the angle change from R1 to the baseline, because that's a 45-degree angle, now my hands are going to release, and you can see this leverage position that my body's in, okay? Because all of a sudden, I'm like this, because the left side is symmetrically just following and going back. Pelvis has moved back, the shoulders, the upper part of the torso has moved back. So then it's like a hockey player with leverage. I'm hitting this off of the side of my body, okay? A lot of people, what they do, they get here, they don't follow R3 and R2, so they go into early extension, then they flip the club and think, okay, everything's great. The Polygongolf Swing Trainer, when you understand the path and how the body is really supposed to move, it is impossible to go into early extension if you're following this thing correctly. See how I'm loaded here? I'm athletic. I'm not up here because the path and the pattern is just showing me, oh, there it is. There it is. Here I come. Boom, I'm right into impact. But I've got all this as my body's continuing to move, so everything's back. So now what do I have to do? The club is going to go down the baseline, then it's going to corner out of the baseline to L1, and I'm going to come up here. So what that's really going to look like is that. But then from here, I've got to go, okay, how do I get to R2? Again, I'm in this position. Why? Let me go backwards for a second. When I get here and I follow the geometry and I get to this position, the reason for it is I'm now in the power angles of the body. What most people don't understand is when we take our arms and we go like this is how we've been able to lift things and carry things for thousands of years. Farming, whatever, we had to pick things up and move things, and these are the power angles of the body. So when I make the move to get to R2, I'm now in the same power angle if I was picking something up. So now all of a sudden I'm in a power angle over here We've already come into the downswing. Now we're coming up, so I've got to go up L2, which puts me in this power angle on the left side. Why are these power angles so important? Because they don't let us get hurt. This club is moving very, very fast. Speeds for most average players, 95 miles an hour. Tour pros, 120, 121, 22. So if something that's made of steel on the end of a stick, and I'm doing this, if my body can support it with the power angles that the geometry is putting us into, guess what? There's less chance for injury on the elbow joint, on the wrist joint, on the shoulders, on the top of the arm, on the ball sockets that are in there. Because our body knows what to do, especially when it comes to how to move geometrically in a 3D environment, now my body can support the weight and the force of how everything moves. So now I've gone from L1 to L2. Now I'm just going to go to L3, and then I'm going to be at the top of my backswing. It is so simple when you can see the pattern, but it's not just the pattern, it's why do I have to do these things? Why do I have to make these angle changes? Because the club truly has to move around your body. And then in the downswing, it's got to move around your body down through and up on the other side. There has never, ever been a training system that you can stand inside of, and it is going to show you, literally show you, wow, I'm in posture. I know how to move my body correctly. There goes the path of the club. Here comes the angle change. There's another angle change. There's another angle change. And see what happens with the symmetry? When I get to the top, that's the point where the left knee is kind of moving down in the 30. Okay? So it's moving down in L1 inside the 30. But everything is so symmetrical. Now we're just going to say, okay, I'm going to come down. So when I come down, there it is. Pelvis is moving back. I'm not going to flip the club. I'm just going to keep driving and changing the angles of everything to be able to hit the ball and then come up and have a world-class golf swing. You don't have to be a professional athlete. You just have to understand the geometry. We are pattern recognition machines. And when you can establish the pattern of what the club and your hands are supposed to do in relationship to how your posture's set, how your body's set, and understand that just in a very short period of time, not years, not months, when you get in the product, you can start establishing these feels. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up closing this in a couple minutes, but I'd like to come back and address a couple different things. All right, everyone, in closing, I'd like to, share a couple of different stories with you. And it's really the same story for almost every golf lesson I've ever taught in my life. When somebody comes to me or to Pete, they say, we ask them, what are you trying to accomplish? Their number one answer is, I want to get more consistent. Their number one answer is not, I want to hit the ball 320 yards like a tour player. As surprising as that may sound to a lot of people, that's not the typical answer that comes out of their mouth. They're like, I want to be more consistent. If I could stop hitting the ball over there and get the ball to go over there, I think I'd have a much better golf game. Well, what I've just shown you with the training system of the Polygongolf Swing Trainer is truly going to give you the ability to have that consistency in the body, to have that consistency with the path of the club, to be able to move and make these angle changes at all time. See, the biggest problem with golf instruction beyond being able to make a repeatable motion for most people, and it's not their fault because the information, if you go online and even read in a golf magazine, you can open up page 5 of a golf magazine, then go to page 30, same exact topic, 2 different instructors contradicting the information. That's the same thing that happens with videos online because they are based on this is what people have taught us and this is how things have to work. Absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. They also sit there and say, feel isn't real. Okay, well, I ask you, don't do this at home, but if you went up and you took your hand and you put it on a hot plate or a stove that is on 400 degrees and you leave your hand there, I guarantee you're going to feel it. When I walk in this world, I can feel the pressure shifts that are taking place. So the first time, without being dependent on some training aid, like let's say it was a wrist set thing that's teaching me how to set my angle, I have something hitting my body trying to trigger my brain, okay, that's what I feel. Well, that's not true either, because most people that take that training aid, that they go out on the golf course, they cannot get that same feel, because now their brain gets lazy and they're trying to feel this trigger point that causes a response in their brain. Doesn't work like that. But what does happen when you're inside of our product and you learn how to move correctly and you know where these angle changes have to happen, when I make those angle changes in the 60, I can feel what's going on with my wrist. As I continue to go up and I come back over here, I can feel how the arm moves in external rotation, or simplicity gets in the power angle that supports the body. Then I come up to the top. It is so mathematically precise, okay, that it is a joke how simple and how fast you can accelerate your learning curve. Say you're shooting in the hundreds right now. You're not going to be doing that for long. In the 90s, in the 80s, they make this big thing. How to shoot to get under 100, how to shoot to get under 90, how to shoot to get under 80, how to break par. Well, guys, I haven't even shown you the things that we can learn to do with short game shots. I haven't shown you how the product adheres to what we have to do to make a chipping motion. I haven't shown you how you could set the product up to get into putting. All those things, like I said, it is a workstation that is going to give you the most absolute successful feelings and patterns and paths that everything has to be moving on. So remember, just like I think that movie, like 7 Days in Utopia, see it, feel it, trust it. When I can see the geometry, I can see it. When I can feel the angle changes, I can feel it. And because I've established those two things, I can trust what the outcome is going to be. Check us out at polygongolf.com, where you can get your Polygon Golf Swing Trainer right now.